Hi everybody, so today I am doing a update video for my reading progress for March. This is being filmed on March 11th and is scheduled to be posted on St. Patrick's Day at around 4 p.m. So I have been really busy the past couple of weeks reading books, and also much to the chagrin of my parents buying books too. I will be doing a book haul in the video where Matt and I talk about our trip to New York City on Sunday. So you will get to see the books that I bought on vacation in that video, and also the books that I bought after we got home. Actually, this is one of the books that I bought after vacation. I just bought this today when we went to Target. This book is on the very high end of my TBR in like the 20s or 30s, so I can't wait to read it. His other book, The Woman in the Window, I read last year when I was working at Plus Company when things were slow at the front desk. So I'm going to be talking about books that I'm currently reading, as well as books that I have finished, and a few DNFs. So to begin, I am going to talk about the Twisted Tales anthology series, a Twisted Tales anthology. So this book is a series of short stories that are sequels to all of the Disney Twisted Tales books, and there are some stories in here that are from movies that haven't had books made about them yet, like Brave and Anastasia and The Princess and the Frog. So basically, I have been reading the short stories in this anthology that are based on the movies that Matt and I are doing for our live action and animated movies comparison series. So the stories that I have read are for Mulan, Peter Pan, Beauty and the Beast, and there's one more, I believe, unless that's it. Let's see, table of contents. Yeah, the Little so the stories that I have read in this anthology that are for books in our movie review series are for The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan, Mulan, and Beauty and the Beast. But in addition to those, I'm also going to read... I've also already read the one about Anastasia, and I'm also going to read the one about Treasure Planet, the one about Robin Hood, and the one about The Sword and the Stone. So basically these stories are like alternate viewpoints of like what happened in the movies. Like, for example, the summary of the Mulan story is what if Mulan became the Emperor's advisor. So I think this is like a postlude to actually what happens in the movie. So these are probably like all sequels. Or what if Eric met Ariel after she rescued him? So, I liked this story because it really provided an alternate viewpoint as to what would happen in Eric and Ariel's relationship if they had met before Ursula cursed her. And I thought that was the most interesting thing, because the biggest plot hole that I hate about The Little Mermaid is how in the song Kiss the Girl, when Ariel has lost her voice and they're singing to her trying to get Prince Eric to kiss her, basically what really bugs me is that the whole time that they're together, Ariel could have easily written down on a piece of paper that she was the one who saved Eric's life. So basically, the short story in this anthology totally fixes that plot hole. The next book I'm reading right now is called Bad Bad Seymour Brown. This title is kind of like a play on words for a song that was in the 1960s called Bad Bad Leroy Brown. And I mean, I picked up this book because Seymour is a character in Little Shop of Horrors, and I love that musical, but this has nothing to do with the musical, obviously. So this is a mystery book that can work as either a second in a series or standalone. I will read the summary to you. When Corey Geller asked her parents to move from their apartment into the suburban McMansion that she shares with her husband and teenage daughter, she assumed they fit right in with the placid life she'd opted for when she left the Joint Tormenson Task Force of the FBI. But her dad gets a call from genial and slightly needy film professor April Brown, one of the victims of the case he was never able to solve. When April was 5 years old, she'd emerged unscathed from the arson that killed her parents. Now, 2 decades later, she's asking for help. Someone has made another attempt on her life. It takes only a nanosecond for Corey and her dad to say absolutely and kick off a full-fledged investigation. And if they don't move fast, whoever attacked April is sure to strike again. But while her late father, Seymour Brown, was the go-to money launderer for the Russian mob, a brilliant, volatile, and violent man was the penchant for Swiss watches and cheating on his wife. April Brown has no enemies. Popular with her students, esteemed by colleagues, her only connection to crime is her passion for the noir movie of Hollywood's golden age. Who would want her dead now, and who set the horrific fire all those years ago? The stakes have never been higher, yet as Corey and her dad have come to understand, they still live for the chase. Savvy and surprising, witty and gripping, Bad Bad Seymour Brown is another standout hit from the beloved Susan Isaacs. So this is my first book by this author. The plot is really engaging. The twists are amazing. I'm not going to spoil anything, so pick up this book. It's really good. The next 2 books that I'm reading were recommended to me by Kerri Nason, who is the theater and choir teacher at Sohegan High School. Home and Homework, Julie Andrews' 2 memoirs. The first book is about her early years in, like, her Broadway performances in My Fair Lady, Camelot, and The Pajama Game? What was the other one? Shoot. Now I don't remember what the other... And then this book talks about her being in Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music, and what else does she talk about in here? Let's see. She talks about her married life also and her family life. And I'm really enjoying learning a lot about her because she has been my favorite actress for pretty much my whole life. I grew up watching The Sound of Music, and I grew up watching Mary Poppins, and I'm also looking forward to listening to the soundtracks of the other shows that she did on Broadway. What was the other one? It's really bugging me that I can't remember the title of the other musical, because I know that I should know it. Let's see. The Boyfriend. So, yes. I am really enjoying both of these books and learning a lot about her throughout them. In Home, I am currently on page 163, and in Homework, I am currently on page 201. The next book I'm reading is part of the beginning of my Stephen King era. I was inspired to read Stephen King after watching a video that Haley Pham posted. Haley Pham is basically my biggest inspiration for reading because I have been watching a lot of her videos, and she has been doing a lot of like videos where she reads thriller for a week, where she reads Stephen King for a week, where she reads like Rory Gilmore for a week, and that's the book that I'm reading with my friend Kathleen on audiobook starting on March 30th is The Picture of Dorian Gray. So back to Stephen King. This is my second book by him that I'm reading. I'm also reading his memoir on writing, which I'm really finding informative. It's interesting to learn about how he got inspired to write his books, and also he provides tips in his book, which are very helpful to me as a writer. So this book is a fantasy novel, and it's a little bit of horror and a little bit of mystery. So it's 3 different genres combined into one, which is good because as somebody who's not a really big fan of horror and blood and gore, this is a lot more digestible for me than his other books probably will be. I also read Billy Summers, which is like a historical mystery, and I really liked that book too. So right now I am currently on page 431, and there are 600 pages in this book, so I'm about halfway done. This book is a historical fiction that is set in Venice, Italy during the Renaissance, and I find it to be very engaging and interesting. I love the setting of Italy, and as somebody who is Italian and has been to Venice before, the last time I went to Italy with my family, I am inspired to check out the places in this book that she talks about. So, yes. This book, the next book I'm reading is called Young Queens. My mother-in-law loaned me this book from her library at her house. And it's very interesting. It's about so when I first heard about this book, I thought it was about the queens that the musical Six is based on, but I don't really know if it is or not. So this is a story of 3 Renaissance women and the price of power by Leah Redmond Chang. Orphaned from infancy, Catherine de' Medici endured a tumultuous childhood. Married to the French king, she was widowed by 40, only to become the power behind the French throne during a period of intense civil strife. In 1546, Catherine gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth de Valios, who would become the Queen of Spain. 2 years later, Catherine welcomed to her nursery the beguiling young Mary, Queen of Scots, who would later become her daughter-in-law. Interesting. Together, Catherine, Elizabeth, and Mary lived through the sea changes that would transform 16th century Europe, a time of expanding empires, religious discord, and populist revolt. As concepts of nationhood began to emerge, the ideas of sovereignty inched closer to absolutism. They would learn that to rule as a queen was to wage a constant war against the deeply entrenched misogyny of their time. Following the intertwined stories of these 3 women from girlhood into adulthood, Leah Redmond Chang's Young Queens paints a picture of a world in which a woman could wield power as the highest level at mercy of the state, her body serving at the currency of the empire and dynasty, sacrificed to the will of husband, family, kingdom. So I am really finding this book to be interesting and engaging. I read about 5 or 6 chapters a day. Currently, I am on chapter 20, page 289. The other book that my mother-in-law let me borrow is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I have read another book by Ann Patchett a couple of years ago, which I have on my bookcase. It is called Commonwealth. So the pacing of this book is really slow. Ann Patchett's writing is delightful, but it's just that the pacing is really slow. I love the setting of a cherry orchard, not so much the fact that it's set during COVID-19 isolation when everybody's in lockdown. So this story is about a movie actress who is with her adult daughters during COVID-19 pandemic lockdown on their cherry farm. And she is basically telling them the story about her life as a famous movie star. I really wish I could have enough minutes on my Spotify to listen to the audiobook, because Meryl Streep voices it, and I love Meryl Streep. And this book kind of reminds me a little bit of Mamma Mia, because the mother is a famous actress, and in Mamma Mia, Meryl Streep plays Donna, who is a member of a girl band. So yeah, as I said, I love Ann Patchett's writing. I didn't like so much the fact that this was set during the pandemic. I also couldn't really connect to any of the characters of the lead character, who was the actress. Her daughters were not very likable characters. I didn't really like any of them. And I found this book to be very similar to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, actually, just because it's the story of an actress telling the story of her life and career to other people. Like, in this book, she's telling it to her daughters. In Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is being interviewed for a magazine. And also, there's another book that I read last month called Did You Hear What Happened to Kitty Carr?, which is a historical fiction that is set kind of around the same time as The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. But what makes this story interesting and a little bit different from The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is this main character is biracial, which was really not something that was very popular back in this time period, and it was actually frowned upon. And the story of Did You Happen to Kitty Carr talks about like how Kitty Carr was adopted by another family because she was biracial. So I don't have the author's name written down right now in front of me for Did You Hear What Happened to Kitty Carr? But if you liked The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, then I can highly recommend that book to you, because it's set basically in the same time period, although the plot is different. The next book I'm reading is another memoir. This time, it is a graphic novel, which I read in 2 to 3 days. It is by Jared J. Krosowska. Please, if the author sees this video, please forgive me for mispronouncing your last name. It's a bit hard to say. So I decided to pick this book up after reading Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, because Matthew Perry tells his story of addiction, and I just found it to be very interesting and intriguing, everything that he went to when he was on Friends and filming his movies. So, in this memoir, the author, Jared, talks about, in pictures, how he grew up with a mother who was in prison and a father who was alcoholic. And basically, his parents were divorced when he was really little, and he finds out when he's a teenager that he has 2 siblings, who are step-siblings from his dad's second marriage. So I really like this book. I mean, the fact that it's illustrated really kept me engaged more than if it was actually a written memoir. Like, not that written memoirs are not engaging. I definitely learn a lot from the authors of other memoirs I have read about their life and their careers, but this book was interesting because, like, it's basically illustrated. Like, I can show you a picture from the book right now on camera. Let me just flip to a page. So let's see. So the cool thing about this book is that in between the chapters, he includes like family mementos of when he was a kid. So this looks like stuff from a class that he took on comic book illustration. So it's very, that's what keeps this book interesting for me, is the fact that he includes family artifacts at the end of each chapter, so that way you can learn even more about him than you would otherwise. The next book I decided to pick up at the library, which I thought was a graphic novel, but I guess it isn't, is the book that the musical Be More Chill is based on. I will read what this is about. Jeremy Here is your average high school dork. Day after day, he stares at beautiful Christine, a girl he can never have, and dryly notes the small humiliations that come his way until the day he is told about the Squip, a pill-sized supercomputer you swallow. The Squip is guaranteed to bring you whatever you most desire in life by instructing him on everything from what to wear, to talk and walk. The script transforms Jeremy from complete geek into the coolest guy in class. Soon, he is friends with his former tormentors and has the attention of the hottest girls in school. But Jeremy discovers that there is a dark side of handing over control of your life and can have disastrous consequences. So, basically, what this was about, I just read you the description, but an analysis I can come up with is that he is controlled by an AI computer, and it tells him what to do and how to handle his relationships, which, given how much AI is popular these days, this book was published a couple of years ago before AI became a thing. It came out in, 2005. Oh, okay, so this book came out in 2005, but the musical that the book is based on, came out, like, in 2017 or 2018. I have seen a couple of clips from the Tony Awards from a couple of years ago where these songs were performed, and I haven't listened to the whole entire cast album yet, but I'm planning to listen to it soon. I talked about this already, so we'll put that to the side. The next book I decided to pick up at the library was on a women's history recommended shelf in the teen section. I seem to gravitate more towards YA books, even though I'm almost 30. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm 38. I don't like to talk about my age very much in my videos because of safety. But yes, I'm 38, and I still read YA novels. But I guess that's not such a bad thing. So this book is a very informative book about the Roe v. Wade debate that was in the forefront of political discussion a couple of years ago when Donald Trump was president, and he put restrictions in it because he doesn't like people to have rights. So this book was very informative to me. I knew nothing about I feel like I should know more about this as a woman, but I don't. So that's what made this book informative, because it was about the history of all the laws of reproductive rights. And now, in an election year, I hope that a woman actually runs for president to reinstate all of the reproductive rights and, that Donald Trump took away. The next book that I read is a reread. The second time I have reread this. The reason why I decided to reread this again, I read it, so my history of reading this book. I started reading it during COVID-19. I had to stop because it was a little bit slow to develop the plot. I stopped at like page 200. Then I read it 2 years ago before I moved before I moved away. And I finally finished the book, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I decided to read it again because this book is featured in an episode of Friends where Rachel and Joey exchange books with each other. Rachel gives Little Women to read to Joey, for Joey to read, and Joey gives Rachel The Shining by Stephen King to read. The Shining has not come in at the library yet. That should probably be in the next couple of days, I'm hoping. So, my favorite character in Little Women is probably Jo. Because she's creative like me. She writes plays for her sisters to act in. She's a writer, and I'm a writer. And I'm also an actress. And one thing I hate about this book, actually, is the fact that Beth dies. That's very sad and depressing. Like, that whole plot line is sad. And I feel really bad during that. Like, I almost cried during that scene when I saw the musical a couple of years ago at Peacock Players. And not very many things in movies and plays can make me cry, but this scene did. So spoiler alert. Sorry that I spoiled it. But that's what happens in the episode, too. Is Rachel spoils the ending of Little Women for Joey when they're having a book discussion in a coffee house. And then he spoils the ending of The Shining for Rachel, which I'm not going to say because I haven't even read the book yet. But yes, I do know how it ends, unfortunately. But that's alright. I'll still read it anyway and see if I like it. So far, I've liked the first 2 books that I've read by Stephen King. And I don't know what I'm... Oh, and as I just said, I'm also enjoying his memoir on writing. The next book is my favorite book by Nicholas Sparks. My 3rd favorite book following A Walk to Remember and A Notebook. Probably because I've seen the movies of all 3 of these books. So, the last song is about a girl named Ronnie and her little brother Jonah, who spend the summer with their dad. They live in New York City with their mom, and they spend the summer with their dad. He lives in North Carolina. So what I really like about this book is the development of the relationship between Ronnie and the boy that she meets, Will, and also the little brother, Jonah. He's 10 years old. I love little kids in books. Like, he's my favorite kid in a book besides Waylay from Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. So yeah, he's funny. He has a lot of witty lines. And so I'm sorry to spoil this for people who haven't read it yet. But the reason why Ronnie and Jonah spend the summer with their dad is because he's dying of cancer. And this book is very sad. When I first read this book, when it first came out in the early 2000s, I cried. I almost cried again when I reread it. And I cried during the movie too, at that point. The movie of the last song stars Miley Cyrus, and there is a great song from the soundtrack that I love. It's called The Climb, and I love that song so much. It's one of my favorite songs from Miley Cyrus besides Party in the USA. The next 2 books are DNFs, unfortunately. So, Sarah Caroli talked about this book on her YouTube channel. She really hyped it up. I don't understand the hype at all. Like, so me and my best friend Kate, Buddy, read 2 books by this author last month. This Savage Song and Our Dark Duet, which are like dystopian romance books. And I really enjoyed both of those books, so I was really excited to read this one because Sarah Caroli hyped it up when she did her January reading wrap-up. the thing that turned me off is that, okay, V.E. Schwab's writing is awesome. It's very engaging. But it's hard to get into the writing and stay engaged when the main character of the book is boring and very bland, like Addie is. I just didn't like Allie. I did not like Addie's character, and I could not connect to her at all. So that's why I did not like this book. The next book is The Silent Patient. This is another book that Sarah Caroli hyped up on her channel. It is a thriller mystery book. It's about a woman who kills her husband and goes to an insane asylum. And basically she remains silent about why she killed her husband. I don't like the narrator of this book, Theo. He is a very unreliable narrator, and that's why I had to DNF. Because I had trouble staying engaged in the plot and figuring out where all the twists were, because Theo was such an unreliable narrator. And I DNF'd this book at 200 pages, and also this book at 200 pages. The last book for this video is called The Witch of Maracour. So this is the third book in a series by Gregory Maguire, who is the author of Wicked and Confessions of a Ugly Stepsister. So this is like a prequel series that sets up the storyline of the Wicked Witch in Wicked. So I want to read this trilogy from the beginning, and I'm not going to give a rating on this book until I read the other two books in the trilogy and then reread this book. So this book will be reviewed at a later date, but I did really enjoy it. So keep that in the back of your minds. So as far as upcoming videos are concerned, Matt and I will be splitting up our entertainment review videos just because we have a lot of things to talk about. So it will be a series of 3 videos. In the first video, we will be talking about our New York City trip. We will be reviewing the movies Argyle, Mean Girls, the movie musical, and Poor Things. And then we will also be doing Disney live-action movie comparisons for Cinderella and Aladdin, and also we will be reviewing Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon for the March and April video, which will be out on March 30th. We will be reviewing no, it will not be out March 30th. I'm sorry. It will be out April 7th. We will be reviewing Peter Pan for our live action and animated movie Disney comparison series. And in this section of Disney movie reviews, the following live action versions of Peter Pan will be reviewed: Finding Neverland, Peter Pan and Wendy, which came out last year on Disney+, and Hook from 1994, I think, with Robin Williams and Julia Roberts. So I'm very excited to watch that because I have never seen it before. Shock and surprise, a Robin Williams movie I have not seen. And I love Julia Roberts too, of course. And for book reviews in that video, I will be reviewing 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult, which I buddy read with my friends Chandler and Sonia. And then at the beginning of May, we will be reviewing Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, Matthew Perry's memoir, which we are buddy reading with our friends Patty, Sonia, Jen, and Anna. And we will also be discussing the Friends episodes that are mentioned in the book, which are The Proposal, episode, an episode where Bruce Willis guest stars as Elizabeth's dad, and compare our ratings of those episodes to those that are in this this special edition of Entertainment Weekly that came out at the end of January. And I cannot wait to finally be done discussing the episodes that we're discussing in this video, because I have been hanging on to this magazine since the end of December, and I'm getting ready to recycle it. So for theater shows that we're reviewing at the beginning of April, we're going to be reviewing Peter and the Starcatcher. And also, we are going to see my cousin Juliana and her play at school. She is in Mean Girls. So I really hope that her show is going fantastic. And then in April and May, for our entertainment wrap-up video, on May 7th, we will be reviewing Amherst PTA, Matilda, and The Tempest, which Kennebunk High School is doing at the beginning of May. So, yes, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for our other videos. Stay tuned for other videos I will be posting, which are basically mostly book-related. I will be throwing in some commentary about Friends and sharing fan fiction chapters in between. So, thank you for tuning in. Have a great week.